Every day, thousands of Nigerians troop to the markets in search of one of the basic needs of every human: clothing. With different choices influenced by multiple reasons, such as weddings and other festivities, rich or poor, everyone looks to meet the need for a covering. But not many pay close attention to the economic implication of their choices, especially on a macro level. In the northern part of Nigeria, boxes filled with clothes are a requirement for everyone seeking the hand of a woman in marriage. Little wonder the high patronage for Ankara, otherwise known as Atampa in the northern part of the country. With such practices, it is natural to have a high demand for textile products to keep local textile factories busy, but the opposite is the reality. Concerned about this irony, we set out to visit the city of Kaduna, known to be home to some of the largest textile mills in West Africa. Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004. At the early days of its operations, it employed at least 4,500 employees, producing a minimum of 7,500 meters of cloth on a daily basis. Access to the textile mill has been very difficult. This is one of the mills, major mills in Kaduna, but from what we can see here are rail lines that used to be transporting channels for conveying raw materials to the various factories in the industrial layout, and Arewa Textile Mill is one of those companies. 58-year-old Joseph Arrigo was an employee of Arewa Textile for 16 years. He now rides a commercial motorcycle known as Okada for a living. Having been a beneficiary of the textile industry glory days, he recalls some of his exciting moments on the job.
If you go to our inspecting department, where the end products of the clothes goes, everywhere is chalk up. The workers there have to run extra overtime of even more than 5 hours after the normal 8 hours before they can meet up packaging the printed material. Trailers, we are waiting outside every day to evacuate finished goods. Every day. Trailers, we are waiting. Customer comes inside to even disturb us, the workers. Sometimes they give us incentive. Then the incentive is not they will just go to the gate, buy yam, roasted yam for us. We are so happy. Even our departmental manager, if they see at a stage where the workload is much and they feel that they want to also add additional production, they will just motivate us. They will go to the gate, get either cooked granite or roasted yam, just bring it. Our manager has done great. You see that the happy boys will be going up and down. Because the job then was not the issue of just looking for money. We have that passion for the work itself. We are scheduled to resume on 4th of January. 5th of January. On the 4th of January, a circular from the company secretary was pasted at the gate that we will not resume indefinitely until some of the challenges of the company are resolved, or until the board of directors summon a meeting. That is how that gate become locked permanently up to now. At that point, it was devastating. We lost several workers. They died because of this incident. I can recall vividly when that incident took place. After a month, I was just like a madman. You are not feeding, your family are not feeding, your children, everybody is not feeding. Can you sleep in your house? You can't sleep.
This is Kaduna Textile Limited, established in 1967. In the first year of its operation, it produced over 1 million meters of plain weaved homegrown cotton, providing jobs for over 5,000 people. Our efforts to gain access to the structure were unsuccessful, but we gathered that some of the equipment here have been stolen, and the building is sometimes used as a hideout for unidentified persons. A drive around the industrial layout in Kakuri area of Kaduna raises the question, what went wrong? While the answer to this seems all too familiar, we chose to interrogate further.
Well, I think significantly, in my opinion, what happened was the abolishment of the cotton board at that time. In as much as I've said, it's a contributor, to the dwindling industry. It also, for me, was a good move. When I say that, I mean that at least what it did was to hand over that sector significantly to the private sector. But it did affect production particularly, because the cotton board did wonderful work in terms of supporting farmers with inputs, with extension services, and so on and so forth, grading system and all that. So it did help at that time to boost and steady cotton production. But then when it comes to the utilization of cotton, obviously the ginneries or significantly the textile mills, I think their challenges became so married in terms of exchange rate, the instability of that, because a lot of the inputs required was actually sourced from abroad, the dyes and the chemicals and so on and so forth, the machine parts and so on and so forth. So that also caused, it made the operating environment harsher for them.
Immediately the trade liberalization policy was adopted, within the program of structural adjustment program or scheme. That kind of, repealed that particular protectionism and gave room for competition. And unfortunately, the Nigerian economy wasn't ready for such competition, all right, by way of ensuring that they had sufficient trade-related infrastructure on ground, all right, the expertise, the power supplies, the raw materials, Nigerian government was lacking in that area, all right. So with the advent of competition and, so many other stuff like that, the textile industry went under. Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar. We move on to Kano, an ancient city with antecedents of northern civilization, housing some of the surviving textile mills in Nigeria. One of them, Teritex Textile, with a capacity to create jobs for at least 500 people, now struggles with a shrinking workforce of less than 150 operating at less than 20% capacity. I asked the managing director how the mill has managed to remain afloat since its establishment 40 years ago.
First is we have aged over others. We survive now on hotels. Our towers are the best you can find anywhere in the country. So the little hotels we are moving together with, they are the ones that are patronizing us. The towers in the market we also give out, but that one does not give us more income. How we operate now, we are operating at maybe 15% capacity. With this, we have to downgrade our staff rationalization, if I can call it. You understand? So we are doing it. We are managing to continue. Today we produce, tomorrow we stop. Today we produce. All these also help in increase in cost of production. The fixed costs are there. Whether you produce or you don't, we have to pay salaries. We have to pay the so-called government taxes. They will come and say, end of the year, we have to pay tax. We have to pay power, very expensive power. In the north here, we pay much higher than what the other companies are paying in the south. I think we're paying about 90 naira per kilowatt or 70 something, somewhere there. Before now, 3-4 years back, if I'm producing at 24 hours or 20 hours, my NEPA bill wouldn't, it was about around 5,800,000 naira. But now I pay about 3 million naira in a month, up to 3. But the sales is not there. We produce and keep, but the sales is not there because of competition from the imported products.
This is our main input, cotton. Unfortunately, as you can see it, we buy it through our own income. And it's very, very expensive now. Last year by now, we are buying it at 500 naira, 520 per kg. Now it's 800 naira, it's not available. Some people are exporting out of the country. That's why it becomes very, very scarce in the market. And we can't produce without cotton. But it's not available and very, very expensive. If we increase our price, people will not buy our products. So that's also reduce our income and increase our cost of production.
From over 100 textile mills operating in the 90s to less than 30 now operating at 20% capacity, manufacturing based on request, employing approximately 20,000 people, the textile sector now struggles to compete with imported fabrics. While government says effort is being made to guarantee access to raw materials, the biggest elephant in the room is the problem of power. Just like this. While others struggled to remain afloat in the late 90s, African textile manufacturers were incorporated in 1998, specializing in the production of African and wax prints. Known for the brand names Festag, Wazobia, and Abada Real Wax, the company has over 20 years of not-so-successful business. The special duties manager tells me the story here is not any different.
Well, it has to, you see, the problem is everything's high. Forests, electricity, water. Number. It's high. So how do we put these things together? And we don't have any concession from the government. So what makes you think a textile company will survive in a situation like this? It will not. Even we that are here today is because we're only relying on special orders. Churches, wedding ceremonies, naming ceremonies. That's the kind of designs we produce now.
This is the largest surviving textile mill in northern Nigeria, with a full capacity to produce 1 million meters of weaved cotton every month and also employ at least 3,000 people. But at the moment, it barely employs 500 people, producing minimum of 150,000 weaved cotton every month. Once the third largest in Africa, Nigeria's textile industry is valued at about $10 billion, but the country now spends over $4 billion on importation, losing $2.2 billion to textile smugglers. Experts say more than 85% of Nigeria's textile needs are sourced from China and India. This is the largest textile market in West Africa, known as Kantinkwari, located in one of Nigeria's commercial hubs, Kano. In 2010, about 9 traders were said to have died, and property worth over 25 billion naira was lost to an inferno. Despite repeated fire incidents, the market remains a beehive of activity, attracting traders from all around the world. Stakeholders believe that the open market agreement ratified by Nigeria waters down the efforts of government at reviving the textile industry. This letter was received by the Kano Zonal Secretariat of the National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria from a production company about to close down. It reads in part, "The production level in our textile section is now below expectation. With this development at hand, management is left with the only option of closing the textile section without further delay." In May 2015, thousands of local fabric dyers staged a peaceful demonstration against the importation of Chinese textile and engagement of expatriates in the retail sale of fabrics in Kano market. Local fabric dyers are concerned that the Chinese may soon render over 30,000 dyers and traders jobless.
There was a decline because of the influence of the textile materials. There are a lot of dumping, there are a lot of smuggling, and also counterfeiting. Sometimes the Chinese come around, pick out designs. Once they are ongoing designs, take it to China, produce, and bring it back to the same market at a cheaper rate. So gradually, we now realize that we don't have an enabling ground, because obviously, because of the infrastructure, we cannot meet up with the price, because the price obviously is going to be different. We have a lot of cost here, but they don't. So you find that a textile, a material that is supposed to sell for 4,000 from the locally produced companies, when they come from China, they sell it for 2,000 naira. Not 100% cotton, mixed with polyester. So it's actually cheaper. So gradually, we realized that we can no longer produce and send to the market.
Now, there are genuine imports. You can see, because you need to differentiate them. There are smuggling, there are genuine imports. Smuggling now dominated, because even as you are importing to the right channel, you pay taxes. Government can even control the inflow through some levies, tariff, everything. But smuggling is the order of the day. And the most laughable aspect of it is that you have about 20 trailers who line up, and custom will say they didn't see these trailers.
With import duty ranging from 20 to 30% on textile products, smugglers have ingeniously found a way of bringing these items regardless.
Well, from our experience at the land borders, you see that these things are smuggled in some unimaginable ways. We've seen it smuggled, hidden in every part of vehicle. Some are hidden even in the engine compartment. Some are hidden in the pigeonhole, under the chairs. Some are carried by camels, donkeys. Criminal ingenuity. Smugglers can adopt just about anything to smuggle their items. some of these wrappers are folded and tied in such a way that they are squeezed into a bag, supposedly of cassava flour, just to get to destination. When they get to destination, they remove it. Of course, it's covered by a cellophane, so it's neat. So smugglers can use any method.
Experts say, in spite of the tariffs imposed on imported textile, competition for local manufacturers remains an impossibility in view of other factors of production.
Tariff is just one of the factors that the government, or one of the strategies that government has adopted. But why tariff alone will not work is that what is the state of the infrastructure as far as the Nigerian economy is concerned? How is our power how is our power supply? What about the water supply? What about road network that will traverse around the country in a bid to supplying these goods and services? They are virtually non-existent. So you impose a tariff, no problem. But when we come back home, there are other so many factors that are militating against the well-being of the sector or in the industry. All right. So for government to be able to ensure that textiles are able to bounce back, there are so much that it needs to do to be able to get it back rightly.
For the textile dealers, patronage of the textile products is not necessarily driven by quality, but by pricing, taste for foreign goods by some, and the craze for fashion by others.
Eto, namu gaskiya na gida ya fi na waje quality. Idan namu na gida yana naira 100, to na waje bai kai namu quality ba zai zo ya zama naira 70 misali ko naira 60. Ba mu san menene yake faruwa ba, su da suna faɗa cewa sauƙin aiki a wajen yafi namu saboda su suna da wuta, suna da ma'aikata da wasu abubuwa wanda mu ba mu san su ba. Mu dai burinmu na gidan ya fi na waje, kuma hakan muke da bukata in har za a iya samarwa a gidan. Dalili kuwa ba abin da ya wuce na gidanka, na waje bai fi na gida ba, duk daɗin na waje bai kai na gida ba. Na gida baya iya samuwa cikin sauƙin da na waje yake da wannan sauƙin. Mu ba mu san daga ina abin yake ba. Mu da mun fi buƙatar a ce namu na gida yafi, amma in dai ka kawo yanzu ka ɗauko wannan abu na gida da na waje za ka ga in dai ka haɗa su, na gidan ya fi ƙarfi amma kuma na wajen ya fi sauƙi.
Why I would say that is because Ankara is versatile. You could use Ankara for a lot of things. You could use Ankara to make a jacket. You could use it to make a trouser. You could use it to make a dress. You know, Ankara can be used for an event. Ankara can be used for the office. You know, Ankara can be used for normal fun parties. You know, people make crop tops with Ankara. You know, there are a lot of things you could use Ankara for. Then again, it doesn't just end on clothing. Ankara can be used to make shoes, it could be used to make bags, it could be used to make like bangles. You know, there are a lot of things Ankara could be used for. So the reason why I would say is really high there, up there, you know, in terms of fashion in the fashion world is because of the ability to be able to use it in so many different ways. You could use it for even wall canvas, you could use it for your throw pillows. There are a lot of things that Ankara is being used for that makes it, you know, that tend to make it really fashionable. People see it, it's visible, you know, because of the way the prints are, the colors and all, you know, the way you can rock it. Even when it comes to designers, when a designer is sewing, it's easy to manipulate, unlike compared to like chiffon or silk or lace. You know, Ankara is very easy to manipulate. Ankara is very easy to bring out a pattern. You know, you could create a pattern because of the patterns already on the Ankara. You could create a pattern and come up with something very creative, unlike using just a plain fabric, you know. Ankara could be mixed to do a whole lot of things. In fact, these days, we have people that would prefer to have a touch of Ankara on their wedding dresses. It didn't used to be like that in the time past, but because of the patterns, you know, of Ankara, people want to have a touch of Ankara on even their wedding dresses.